तो यहाँ पे हम तो now the next is we have to call this polar class and we supply r and theta. तो यहाँ पे जब हम करेंगे we call the we instantiate the polar class and supply r and theta as arguments. ठीक है जी. Instead of x and y, now I provide r and theta as arguments. ठीक है जी. तो r and theta को arguments में हमने provide किए. सही है. ठीक है. और जब हम इसको रन करते हैं तो फिर हमारे पास आ जाते हैं द मैग्नीट्यूड इज़ 5, द एंगल इन रेडियंस इज दिस, द रियल पार्ट इज़ दिस, द इमेजिनरी पार्ट इज़ दिस. तो ये हमने वही सेम यहाँ पुट कर दिया था. तो जब हमने इसको रिकैलकुलेट किया तो ये देखें, जब हमने यही आर और यही थीटा पुट किया था तो एक्स और वाई मिल गए 3 और 4. तो आप इसको और भी अच्छी तरह एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं. राइट, नेक्स्ट वी मूव टू द टास्क नंबर 4 which is about reading a file from your computer. तो ये हमारा पार्ट 2 था जब हमने ट्यूसडे कवर किया था. This lab is about the stuff we covered in the Tuesday's class. ठीक है. So this lab portion, the remaining lab portion. तो इस लैब का जो remaining portion है, the remaining lab portion is about the stuff we covered in the Tuesday's class. ठीक है. ठीक है. तो task number 4 is we have to open a sample.txt and then we have to print a.read. So what is there in sample.txt? Let's check. So let's open sample.txt, but sample.txt should be in the same folder in which we are working, in which your source code is. So sample.txt, where it is, this one, sample.txt. Let's see what is inside it. Sample.txt, it contains hello dear students, my name is AM, I am an employee. Right, so these are the 3 lines I have written in this file, in this simple file, in this text file. Right, this one is, I think this one is better. So hello dear students, the first line, my name is AM, the second line, third line is I'm an employee. So let's see what it is. If we open this file using this this open function, so open, this opens a file, namely sample.txt. the file should be in the folder that contains your source code, I mean your file, this file week11.py. so this week11.py should be in the same folder as this one. So this folder should contain this and the same source code and this file sample.txt, and you read it using this method. So the read method reads the contents of the file. So if we execute it, so it reads everything. Hello dear students, my name is Abdul Manan, I am an employee. So a.read. So this is how you can read a file straight away. Right, so let's move on to the next task. Task number 5 is, now we are going to introduce to you another way of reading files, that is using read lines. So this method reads one line of the file. So what's the first line? The first line of the file is hello dear students. So if you execute it the first time, if you execute this line for the first time, this will read the first line. So this line will read the first line. If you execute it once again, it will read the second line. If you execute it the third time, it will read the third line. But before that, let's comment task number 4, the previous task. Right, so the first line read, then the second line. So this is the way you can read lines of your text files one by one line at a time. Right, that's great. So let's comment this and let's move on to task number 6. These are some simple tasks. You want to open this write.txt for writing. So this is mandatory. If you want to write something, you have to mention that you are opening this to write. So writing this write argument is mandatory if you want to open a file for writing. Otherwise it is not mandatory. If you want to read it, it's not mandatory. You can write read here, r here, and if you don't write read, even then you can read. So it's not mandatory, but if you want to write on some file, you have to supply this w. That's right. So you open this wr.txt, it's another file, and you write it nfciet in it. So let's see what this wr.txt file is. And this of course this file wr.txt should be in the same folder as your source code. This is mandatory. They should be in the same folder. So let's move on and see what is there in wr.txt. This is wr.txt. So it should be initially empty. So let's read everything from here. Now wr.txt is empty. So let's check it once again. It's empty. wr.txt is empty. So what we're going to do is you have opened it for writing and you have written first line on it, and then you close. So closing is, so these two items are mandatory. You have to write this w and you have to close it, and if you execute this shell is right. So you see, open this wr.txt, you see nfciet written here. So you have successfully written a line of code here, a line here using some lines of code. And this ends tells your cursor to, it tells your cursor to move to the next line after printing this text, the next line after printing this text. After you have printed this text, so this escape n tells your cursor to move to the next line. If you don't, your next line, if you write some other text, will not go to the next line. It will be written just in front of what you have written so far. So if you want to go to the next line and you want to write print, you want to write another line in the next line, some other text in the next line, you have to use this escape character n. So now we have repeated this statement b.write but with some other text. So this means that this statement will be written in the next line, because the cursor has already moved to the next line using this escape n. So let's see. So it has been successfully executed. Let's see what it is. So it should have written nfciet in the first line and this Honeywell Road in the next line. So if you now print the third line to, that is Multan. So but you don't write a \n here because you don't have anything more to write on it. So therefore you close everything and you don't have anything left to write on the file anymore. So this is how you write n, and since you don't have to write anything else, you don't write \n. So this is your final file. So you don't write \n here because that would be of no use, because you don't have to write anything else in the file. So you don't write \n here. That would be waste. That would be useless. So if you want to print this second line, NFC Honeywell Road on the same line, this text Honeywell Road on the same line, you have to just skip this. skip this and add a space here. So this way the next line will be printed on the next line will be printed on the next this text Hannibal Road will be printed on the same line. So let's check and see what this write.txt is. Now this Hannibal Road is on the same line, this text, even this text is in the same line. So if you want to go to the next line, you read backslash, and if you want to put a comma here, you can also do that. So that would generate this wr.txt, and a comma here, and then a space, and then Hannibal Road, and then you can put a comma here, and Multan can also be on the same line, and this Multan can also be on the same line. So just skip it, add a blank space after a comma, and then let's check what it is. Right, they are now on the same line, separated by commas. Right, so this is how you can open a file, you can write lines, you can write some text on one line and on multiple lines as per your own wish. So searching for a string in a file, that's simple. You're going to open a file and you read one line of this file, you print it using this statement, and then you split it. This default method split, this built-in method, this method splits a sentence into verse. For example, hello dear students, this sentence has, for example, hello dear students will be broken to hello dear students, and will be packed in a list of strings. So this method actually packs, not only splits, but packs it splits a sentence into verse, and packs them in a list. लिस्ट में पैक कर देता है, that packs them in the list. So now you have a list, LST, that contains all the words that you found in the first line of sample.txt. So this method reads the first line of the sample.txt. What is sample.txt? Let's check this one, sample.txt. This file has 3 lines, and this is the first line, hello dear students. So this method is gonna read the first line and put that in X, and you can check by printing X that you have read the first line correctly, and then you can LST just split this line into words and make a list of it, and you can print list here. So let's print this small code first, this small piece of code first. Okay, here hello dear students is the result of this statement, print X, and this print LST gives you this list with 3 words, and all 3 words are being treated as strings. So this is string, this is string, this is also string. Hello is a string, dear string, students is also a string. So now you have 3 strings in a list, so it's a list of strings. So what I'm going to do is to check for a certain word. For that we need this for loop, that we have to go through all the words that we find in the list, or all the elements we find in the list. So for I in range length of list, if list of I is exactly equal to students print, we got a hit. Right. So we got ahead because we get a students here. But if we search for example BMET, if we search for BMET, we won't get this message. नहीं आएगा ना? Oh, नहीं मिला. This method isn't there, so we didn't get this method. We didn't get this print statement because we didn't get this BM or dear. Let's check. Yes, we got ahead because dear is there. Dear is there in the list here. So this is how we can check for a certain word read from the line, read from the sentence that we have read from one line of your file. So we can read this line by line and check whether we get the desired word in the file. So here is a homework for you. Homework is to modify this program. This is your homework. Homework is to modify task 7 so that you search for a given word in the whole text file. So this task 7 actually search for a string in one line read from a file. So it searches for a string, but it searches that in only one line that you have read from a file. But now your homework is that you have to modify this task number 7 so that now it reads, it searches for a given word or string, for a given string in the whole text file. I mean, you have to read. The hint is that you need to read all lines in a given text file. So this is the hint. The hint is that you will have to read all lines because you have to search for a given word or a given string in the whole file, so you have to read all the lines. That's obvious. So right, so this completes task number 7. Now we are ready to move to the second last task number 8 for today. That is task number 8. The task number 8 is reading a specific line in a text file. For example, you are given a file and you're asked to read line number 2. For example, line number 2 only. You have to read only line number 2 or line number 3. So all lines. So file variable, let's call it x. X is open sample.txt and all lines is x.readlines. You know that, x.readlines. So this line, actually this method reads all the lines. This method readlines method reads all the lines in the text file and assigns them to the all lines list as elements. So all lines list is a list, and you can check that all lines. If you print all lines here, you'll see all lines read from the sample.txt file, and they are put as one line is one element of this all lines list. So for this all lines list, the first if you execute it, you see the first line is the first element, the second line is the second element, and the third line is the third element. So you can also print the first line. For example, print all lines of 0. All lines of 0. So that will print the first line of your sample.txt file. Hello dear students, the first line. So you have printed the first line. So if you are print for example line number 2, so line number that you want to print is, for example, 2. You want to print the second line, so you should print all lines of a line number -1. Why -1? Because when you read the first line, you assign that to the list or lines as the first element, and by default the index assigned to the first element, this is 0. So the first line of the text is the 0th element of our all lines list. This is because the first line of the text file of the sample.txt file is the 0th element in our all lines list. So we have defined a list, and the first, by default, Python assigns index 0 to the first element. So it is the 0th element in our all lines list. So the first line in the text sample.txt file is the 0th element in our lines list. So therefore, if you want to put the second line, you have to put 2 minus 1. So if you want to put the third line, you have to put 3 minus 1. So that will read the third line. I am an employee. The third line of the file sample.txt. The third line, I am an employee. The last task for today is task number 9. Write into a specific line in a text. So if you have read a line, you can write to a line. For example, you write wr.txt, and you know what is there in it. It is, right now it contains 3 lines. Oh, it contains only 2 lines. So let's make them 3 lines. Honeywell Road, and right now it is in 3 lines. So we are going to read this for writing something on it. We are going to read it, and we print all lines is equal to a.read line. Right, so if we read that and if we print it, print all lines, it will give you all lines in a list, and the first line is the first element, the second line is the second element, and the third line is the third element of this list. So what we are gonna print is all lines of 1, and if we want to override this, my new line, so all lines of 1. So this line of code is going to do what? Is going to overwrite line number 2 of the wr.txt file. Why line number 2? Because the indices start from 0 for the list. So if you, in this one, you'll have the line number 2. So, and then if you print all lines, and then all lines dot append, right, so right, I'll explain this line later. So then we have to open this as let's see what your all lines variable has right now. Print all lines. Your all lines variable has okay. So now your all lines variable has been changed. It's not changed. It is the first element is the same, the third element that is the same. Now we have changed the second element. So now we are ready to print this all lines variable, all lines list. We are going to write this all lines list on the file. So v dot write lines, we'll open that once again for the purpose of writing on it, and will write lines. Write lines means all lines will be, all elements, each element in the all lines list will be written on the file wr.txt. इस फाइल में राइट हो जाएगा, and then we have to close it. So if you execute that and now you open wr.txt file, actually it wasn't saved. Let's see. So wr.txt is empty right now. Let's write something on it, maybe NFC IET Khanewal Road, Multan. Right. So now we have written wr on wr.txt, these 3 lines, and now we execute this. We open this, all lines e dot read lines, it reads all the lines, and we print them, and we print all lines of one by new line. This line is edited, and then we print all lines after adding this new statement, after adding this new element, and then we are going to write it on it. So let's see what this gives you. Right, so now if we open this wr.txt, you see the second line has been modified. It's been overwritten by your code. Initially it was Khanewal Road, and now it is my new line. So you have actually overwritten on this line. So in this way you can overwrite a given line, or you can append. So there was another statement that I commented, that is all lines dot append. This means now I have added another element to all lines. So that would be this, that I have another I have appended another. Oh, I should have written it Pakistan. So Pakistan, that would be logical. So now it is Bhutan and Pakistan. Okay, so let's modify the file first, wr.txt. There is also all mess up in it. So it is NFC IET Khanewal Road, Multan. So let's close this file now, and now we execute this code. So it's great now. So we have actually modified this second line, and we have added another line into it. So let's see what this wr.txt right now. Right, now it has 4 lines. We have added this line using our code, and we have modified this line. So we have done 2 different things. We have overwritten a line, and we have added a line. So you can overwrite a line using Python. You can open a file, you can overwrite a line, or you can add a new line at the end of the file. Right, so that's all for this lab. We have covered all 9 tasks, and you're encouraged to practice these things, all these 9 tasks, and you're also required to do this homework. You have to modify task number 7. Right, that's all for this lab. Thank you very much.